Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary Tim Wood.
This is all about helping people. That is why I am so passionate about this, because it's literally getting up every day and helping people plan for the rest of their lives. Make a plan, because I promise you're going to sleep better.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Let's sit down. Let's make sure we have got a holistic plan. We're not just looking at one thing.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
We welcome you into this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. Alongside Tim Wood, he's the founder, president, certified financial fiduciary, and of course, he's the star of the show. My name's Kevin McAlpin. We hope you're having a wonderful day, and we thank you for being part of the program here today. Coming up on the show, we know the NFL is back, so much like 32 head coaches are game planning for a long season, Tim's going to tell you how he can help you put a plan in place for hopefully a 30-plus year retirement. Plus, we know the Fed is set to meet again soon. We'll give you some things to think about to avoid the hype when it comes to investing in your future. And later on, how much money do you think you need to live comfortably? We'll tell you how some folks answered that question. We'll get to that and so much more. But first things first, we do say hello to the man of the hour, the star of the show, and my buddy Tim Wood. Tim, it's great to be with you. How are you today?
I am doing well, Kevin. Great to be here as always. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's enjoying football season. Even if you're a Jets fan, you're not disqualified yet.
You took a dig less than a minute into the show. Are you kidding me?
You're not disqualified yet, bro. Don't go. You're still okay so far.
You know, it's funny. You see those little graphics when teams are eliminated from playoff competition, and I think it was the second or third week of training camp. And it was a fake one from Fox Sports that said the New York Jets have been eliminated from playoff competition. Tim, I got to be honest with you. I'm not overly optimistic about Jets football this year.
I wouldn't be either. And I'll just let that go. Of course, I'm not very optimistic about my team either. So, we'll just let that go too.
But you know what? That's why you play the game, right?
That's right.
They've had teams that have come out of nowhere, have shocked the world. Hey, I'm old enough to remember the Jets going to back-to-back AFC championships with Mark Sanchez as their quarterback in 2010 and 2011. So stranger things have happened, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe not. I'm not getting my hopes up. I'll tell you that. Let me ask you this. Are you a fantasy football player?
No, I'm really not. Yeah. No, I've never really gotten into that. You?
You know what? I am, and somehow I won my league a couple of years ago. Dumb luck. Christian McCaffrey decided to stay healthy. Dak Prescott turned into Joe Montana, and I had Derrick Henry. So between those three, I was in pretty good shape. I had me a pretty good year. It was probably the most unlikely fantasy football win in our neighborhood dad's league.
Nice. Yeah, Dak Prescott is fantastic until you get to the postseason.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all I'll say about that, because the Cowboys are one of my teams, and they're great during the year, but then once you hit that postseason, I don't know what it is. Something switches in his brain or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Well, again, we'll see what happens. It's a long season. We know college is back. The NFL is here as well. And I know my Saturdays and Sundays will be spent sitting on the couch trying to avoid the kids and get a little football in my life. It leads us right into what I wanted to talk to you about here to start the show here this week with the NFL being back. And I know some listeners, Tim, are probably like us. They're serious fans, and they want to try to watch each and every game on their TV. Well, guess what? If that's you, you better break out your wallet. You're going to spend about $1,700 streaming services that carry the games like ESPN Plus, Peacock, and the Amazon games and so forth. But Tim, let me ask you this. When it comes to our listeners, what you do every single day, obviously we know there are costs with healthcare and living expenses and the fun things like travel for our listeners. So let's talk about listeners, clients of yours that maybe underestimated some of those costs and how you're able to really help them put those on paper and really visualize what some of those costs, especially as we get older, are going to look like.
Absolutely. And the number one, I would say, and most people know this, but that people need to really be aware of, is rising healthcare costs. And, the rising cost of even Medicare supplements or Medicare, Advantage plans or drug plans or any of that stuff. It keeps getting more and more and more expensive. And unless somebody does something, I don't see it turning around anytime soon. So that's something that you do need to plan for. Absolutely. And a lot of people don't. They think, oh, well, when I have Medicare, it'll be taken care of. Not really. So that's one of the things that we need to look at for sure. Inflation. I mean, my goodness, we thought we had beat inflation. And then, just last month, there was a report that came out that it's back. So, did we beat inflation? I don't know. I'm not really sure yet. So that's definitely something that we've got to look at, because if we get to a point in 10, 20 years where a loaf of bread is $8, if you're on a set income and that's all you got, and a loaf of bread's $8 and cost of gas now is $7 and all that stuff, what are you going to do? You need to have a plan, and you need to have some income that can keep growing that you can turn on later to overcome inflation. The next one I would say, and this is the biggest risk for everybody, and that's longevity risk. Everybody underestimates how long they're going to live. Everybody. And what happens if you have a plan and that plan, says, okay, well, you're going to be fine until you get 87. Most people would say, okay, that sounds great. But with medical advances today, what are you going to do if you live to 107? You're going to live with that brother-in-law that you hate the last 20 years? What are you going to do? You know what I mean? You got to make a plan, and it needs to be a lifetime plan. Then the last two things, really, taxes. A lot of people don't think all of that money that you put in an IRA, a 401k, a TSP, any of those type of plans, you still owe taxes on all of it. So if you think you've got $500,000 saved for retirement and it's in a pre-tax account, you don't have $500,000 saved. That's not what you've got. If you're depending on your tax rate, you've got somewhere probably between 300 and 400 because the tax man owns the rest of it. Need to make a plan for that. And then really the last thing is, a lot of people think that their expenses are going to go down in retirement, and that's just not reality for most people. Most people work their whole lives, and once they retire, that's when they're playing the golf 2, 3, 4 times a week. That's when they're taking the wife to the beach or to the, outlet mall and, going with their buddies to do this and that and going on that trip they've always wanted to. So sitting down and making a real plan, that's what's going to be able to allow you to make sure you've got enough income for the long haul.
So when it comes to spending, when it comes to prioritizing spending, especially those early years of retirement, we know that those are the go-go years, right? Those are when you're going to be your most active. You're going to be able to check some of those big items off your bucket list. So how do you sort of find that balance between, enjoying those moments without, having your clients jeopardize, again, what could be a 30, 35, maybe even a 40-year retirement, if fingers crossed.
What you just hit something really big right on the head. That's what we do. We figure out how much do you need at retirement to cover all of those fun things that you want to do. And then, like you said, that's the go-go years. That's when you're going to really go and do things. If we make sure you've got enough money then, once you get a little older and you start transitioning into the slow-go years, you're going to spend less money playing golf and going on trips and whatever, but you're going to spend probably that same amount, but instead of it being on that fun stuff, it's going to be to the doctor or to the pharmacy or to the chiropractor, or you know what I mean? All these different things. And then same thing, once you get into the no-go years, then really all of that money really is going to all of that stuff. So making sure that you've got enough money for the go-go years really does give you a really good platform to move through the rest of your life. But like you've heard me say, it's always smart to have a couple inflation buster plans that just keep growing, keep growing, keep growing, keep growing as long as you keep deferring. So at some point, it may be in your 70s, 80s, heck, it could be your 90s. Whenever you need more money, you've got another plan that snap you can turn on, and that's going to pay you more money for as long as you're living.
If you'd like to learn more, maybe you're in that window, maybe you're in the red zone of your working career. See what I did there? I tied that into the NFL. That's something that you just can't teach that right there. Can you, Tim?
Right. Skills.
That's exactly right. Well, maybe you are approaching the goal line when it comes to your working life, and you're looking forward and getting ready for your retirement. Well, let Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement help you put that plan in place for your future. You want to learn more? You want to sit down with Tim? Maybe you'd like to just have a 15, 20-minute discovery visit with him over the phone. Folks, keep this number handy. 800-913-SAFE. Again, folks, that number is 800-913-7233. Or you can always visit Tim anytime online. It's safemoneyretirement.com. Again, safemoneyretirement.com. All right, can I give you one more football analogy?
Please.
Okay, so as we get older, we might have some unexpected fumbles with our lives. Maybe it's a market downturn. Maybe it's medical emergencies. Maybe it's that round-the-clock home care that you may need as you get older. These are things, Tim, that we know for many folks can really, kind of, turn the ball over, if you will. So how can you help them plan now for those changes that could come up that could be, surprises later on in life?
Yeah, and people that have read my book know I actually talk about calling audibles all the time in retirement. And that's one of the reasons that I do annual reviews with my clients. Even if you're in a plan that doesn't have anything that we can change, some retirement plans you can actually adjust every single year. So we get together and we figure out, what do we want to do this coming year? Do we want it in the fixed, or do we want it against the S&P or whatever? Some you can't change, but we still need to get together every single year and see if we need to call an audible. Has something changed? Do we need to move something out of a growth plan and into an income plan? Or, do we need to whatever? So yeah, absolutely. Just staying on top of what could happen and being in touch with the clients on an annual basis, if not more, to be able to make those changes and make those, call those audibles when things do change.
So for listeners today, maybe they've worked with an advisor in the past. They put a plan together and they're looking for maybe that second opinion, that review to sort of see where they are. And maybe they realize that, hey, I only, really did plan for those go years. I haven't really, been able to plan for the future. How can you help them adjust? What are some of the ways you can help them, sort of make those tweaks as they move forward?
We sit down. I just did this literally about an hour and a half ago with the client. We sit down and I literally say, okay, if I was doing it with you, Kevin, I would say, okay, you're going to retire in 3 years. Great. I want you, let's literally in your mind, let's look forward 5 years. Then we're going to look forward 10 years, then 20 years, then 30 years. What does that look like? Where are you at? Really, what are you doing? And let's make sure that we're going to have enough income for whatever that is. So it's really sitting down and making a real solid plan. That's really what it comes down to, and making sure that you've got more money that you can use for income in the future if you ever need it.
Feels like too when to do one more football analogy. I said one more, but I'm going to give you one more here just to wrap up this segment.
That's all right. It's football season. Yeah. It's fine.
There you go. But it does feel like, you talk about putting together a winning team. You talk about putting together a successful team on the field. You've got to have a lot of different skill positions. Sort of feels very similar to where, sort of healthcare and housing costs and those fun bucket list items sort of all kind of come together as one team, if you will. Is that a fair analogy?
Absolutely. And that's a perfect transition into, if you don't already have a copy of my book, you need to get one. Name of my book is Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. And as Kevin knows, I have got football analogies all through the book just because I'm a football junkie. I can't help it. Sorry, that's the way it is. But just like you said, you don't have on a football team, and I talk about this in the book, you've got a quarterback. The quarterback is not running, he's not playing defensive back. He's not kicking the ball. He's not the coach. He's not the ball boy. He just throws the ball and runs the thing. The linemen, that's what they do. The wide receivers, that's what they do. It's the same thing in retirement. You need a retirement expert that can help you with the income. You're also going to need a CPA. You also might need an attorney to take care of any kind of legal things like wills or estate plans or any of that kind of thing. You're going to need someone to take care of your insurance as far as your health insurance. You need a team, and you need experts on your team, because no one can be an expert in everything. Mm-hmm. That's one of the biggest issues I see, is people thinking, oh, well, I can handle all that myself. Really? So if you were a football player, you were going to block the line, you're going to throw the ball, you're going to catch it, and you're going to kick the extra point. Really? You're that good? Seriously?
Yeah.
I can't do it. You know what I mean? I can't do everything for retirement myself. For my retirement, I've got a team, and that I'm a retirement income expert and growth expert. Great. I can do that for myself. but I'm not a CPA. I'm not a health insurance guy. I'm not an attorney. You know what I mean? You still need those teammates that can help you get across the goal line.
Well, if you are looking for someone to guide you in that direction, maybe you're in that window 2 to 3 years away from retirement. Maybe you're newly retired. Maybe you don't even have any clue where to start. And if you're looking, like we've talked about earlier, for that growth without the fear of market downturns, Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement, they are here to help. Tim will help you safeguard your investments while still participating in market growth opportunities. He's also going to provide peace of mind knowing your hard-earned retirement is protected against market losses while still having a chance to benefit from market gains. You want to learn more? You want to get on Tim's calendar? Well, pick up the phone. Give him a call today, 800-913-SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233. Or if you prefer, you can always contact Tim at the website, safemoneyretirement.com. Again, it's safemoneyretirement.com. All right, coming up next, what's most important to you in retirement? Making money or memories? Plus, we know fewer Americans rely on pensions these days, so Tim's going to tell you how he can help you create your own personal pension. We'll get to that and more as we continue with this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood right after this.
You're driving along when you realize...
Oh, I've got to get over. Oh my gosh, sorry.
You didn't see him, did you? He was in your blind spot. You can also have a blind spot when it comes to your retirement. That's where Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement comes in. They know about a little blind spot called taxes. Social Security, your pension, your investment, all can be taxable. Look, you don't want to end up saying,
Will I be writing huge checks to the government when I retire?
don't get blindsided by taxes. Make sure your retirement has a tax plan with one call to Tim Wood and Safe Money Retirement. 800-919-SAFE. That's 800-919-7233. Or online at safemoneyretirement.com.
Welcome back into this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. He's Tim Wood. He's the founder, president, certified financial fiduciary, and of course, my good buddy. And my name is Kevin McAlpin. Tim and I, glad to have you with us here on the show this week. And obviously, if you're just joining us, well, we talked a lot of football. We talked about the parallels between planning for a long, successful football season and, of course, that journey to retirement. If you'd like to learn more, you'd like to get on Tim's calendar, schedule that 15 or 20-minute no obligation consultation. Folks, keep this number handy. 800-913-SAFE. Again, that number is 800-913-7233. Or you can always contact Tim at the website, safemoneyretirement.com. Again, it's safemoneyretirement.com. All right, Tim, I know this question is posed of a lot of folks over the years, and the answers, well, they're kind of interesting to this question of how much you think you need to live comfortably. When Schwab asked about 2,000 folks that question, the answer was a net worth of $840,000. Now, Gen Xers say 783, while Boomers say 943, but it also found this, that 8 out of 10 Americans feel wealthy when it comes to the quality of their relationships, their happiness, and free time. So let's talk about, that number. We talk about the magic number. Do you have to have fill in the blank for retirement? Or is it more about, making memories than it is about having that magic number in retirement?
It absolutely is more about making memories. And it's funny that actual survey, you can get that on safemoneyretirement.com. I've got that survey. If someone wants to actually read that survey, it's on my website in the media section. So people have heard me talk about this before. Knowing how much money that you need is really a misnomer because it's not about knowing how much money you need. It's all about income. Retirement is all about how much income you have. That's what's going to bring the happiness in retirement. But to answer your question, absolutely, it's more about making memories. Let me ask you, for anyone listening right now, answer this question for yourself. When you were lying on your deathbed and you were laying there and your wife or your kids or whoever's there with you when you're getting ready to go, are you going to be talking about how much money you made in 2025? Or are you going to be talking about that once in a lifetime trip that you went on with your wife or with your kids or with your grandkids or whatever that, remember that time we went to Disney? Oh yeah, it was great. And we did this and everything. That's what you're going to remember. Mm-hmm. I preach this so much. People need to use their retirement money in their retirement. Don't save your retirement money for your kids. If you want to leave your kids something, let's do something that's cost effective, which you can do life insurance for pennies on the dollar. If you want to leave your kids something, that's great. Do it. And then what you're leaving them is tax free. Because if you leave them a retirement account with the new Secure Act, they've got to have all the taxes paid in that in 10 years. And it's just not very tax efficient. But to answer your question, no, it's all about experiences. It's all about memories. So the way that you're able to do experiences and do things with your family and make those memories is knowing you've got enough income. Because if you've got $5,000 a month coming in every single month, if you spend it this month, guess what? It's coming in next month. And then if you spend it next month, guess what? It's coming in the month after that. That's what really matters in retirement, and that's what it's a challenge for some people to make that shift in their minds from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase. That's a real challenge for a lot of people, is making that mental shift, because it's a totally different ball game, and it's a different type of advisor that you need. You need a different advisor when you're 30 than you do when you're 60. It's just different. I'm not, do I deal with some people in their 30s? Yes. But those are people that are already focused on planning for their retirement. Most 30-year-olds are not. If you are, great, let's talk. But most 30-year-olds aren't. But most 60-year-olds are. So, yeah, it's all about making the memories, doing what you can, and having that income so you can go do and make those memories and not have to worry about either underliving or overliving your retirement, making sure you're right there in the sweet spot.
And you mentioned that mindset shift going from, okay, you're putting all this money away, right? You're in the accumulation stage of life. Now you get to retirement. Now it's the distribution side of things. So let's talk about when that light bulb maybe clicks for some folks. I'm sure it's harder for some than others. My parents would probably be in that conversation. But, when you see the sort of the psychology of retirement come through and they realize, okay, I have this plan in place that allows me to spend. I can go enjoy this. That's got to be one of the most rewarding parts of what you do every day.
I literally have Kleenex in every office here.
Yeah.
I've got 6 offices here in the whole mothership. I've got 6 offices. I've got a box of Kleenex in each one because, yes, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that go on.
Yeah.
And some people never get it. And the scary thing is there's a lot of people out there that are still following the 4% withdrawal rule. People, look at the new research. 4% is not sustainable anymore. Mm-hmm. A sustainable number is now down somewhere around 2.5%. Why would you want to risk taking 2.5% out of an account and hoping that you didn't outlive that money when we could put you into a plan that guarantees you to get, and this is an approximate, of course, rates change, but about 3 times that amount. Guaranteed for as long as you're breathing. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to risk it? But making that shift is hard for some people. They've always played the market. They've always just taken money out when they needed it. That's what they've always done. Okay, well, great. You may have always ran, but there could be a time when you get into your life and you can't run anymore because now you're 74 and your knees just won't cut it. Well, guess what? Time to make a change. Yeah. It's time to make a change also when you're making that transition into retirement, or even better yet, about 5 or 10 years before you're going to transition into retirement is the optimal time to do this, because then we can get you into a plan that's got that guaranteed roll up for those 5 or 10 years. There's plans out there with a really, really attractive rate that's a guaranteed roll up on the income side. So then when you do turn on that guaranteed income, it's really high. But yeah, making that switch is really hard psychologically for a lot of people.
And I know we've talked about this in previous shows about having both spouses on the same page, which, let's be honest, is easier said than done sometimes too, right? Is where, one maybe handles more of the financial side of things than the others. and they may have different goals and different hopes when it comes to retirement. So really, I guess helping couples align on, again, their next steps. What does the future look like 10, 15, 20 years from now? That's a big part of this too, is making sure both sides are on the same page, right?
100%. And that's why people that have been to my website, and if you haven't, write this down. Safe Money RISA, RISA, safemoneyrisa.com. Or you can just go to my website, safemoneyretirement.com, and click on the RISA tab. Either way, the RISA is the Retirement Income Style Awareness Survey. It's going to take you about 5 minutes, completely free. And what I do when I'm actually doing a fact finder, before the fact finder, I ask both members of a couple, the husband and the wife, to sit down and do the RISA independently. Because we may find, like you said, we may find that the wife is in protected income. That's what she wants. But the husband may be in risk wrap, which is just one of the other categories. Well, then we know that. Mm-hmm. So when we're sitting down, I can say, okay, Helen, well, here's what you want. But Jim, here's what you want. So let's make sure both people get what they want. Yeah, that absolutely is a big thing. And that's why we do that retirement income style awareness. And I ask every single client to do that, because it gives you an 11-page report. It also gives me an 11-page report on exactly what's going to make you happy in retirement. So then when we make the plan, it's the plan that's right for you.
If you'd like to learn more about your retirement income style awareness, you'd like to take that little 5-10 minute quiz, you'd like to see where you are, well, we visit the website. Tim mentioned it just moments ago. It is safemoneyretirement.com. You can also visit safemoneyretirement.com/RISA, RISA. I'm actually on the website right now. I'm going to do that during the next commercial break. We'll see what numbers we can come up with here, even though I've got a little longer than some of our listeners too when it comes to planning for retirement. But Tim, let's be honest, it's never too early to start planning, right?
It absolutely isn't. And people would be really surprised. I've had some clients in their 20s.
Wow.
I mean, there's clients that, like, I had one that was with a tech company and had a lot of money and was planning for retirement in his 20s. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're in that mindset and you're ready to start making a plan for retirement, that's when you need to start. So yeah, it's never too early.
There you go. SafeMoneyRISA.com or SafeMoneyRetirement.com, and you can take that little quiz, see where you are, especially if you're in that window as you're approaching your retirement. Or better yet, if you'd like to schedule that Fact Finder consultation with Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement, give them a call today. We've got teammates standing by to get you on Tim's calendar by dialing 800-913-SAFE. Again, folks, that number is 800-913-7233. Again, the website, safemoneyretirement.com. Well, Tim, we know pensions have really gone the way of the dinosaur here over the last 20, 30 years. And no surprise that Americans say they really miss the guaranteed income that used to come along with them. Only about 13 million folks here in the U.S. currently have pensions. And a lot of folks have said, without the pension, it's harder to achieve the American dream. So if listeners today are feeling like they're in a similar situation, how can you help them put together, let's call it a personal pension, if you will?
That's step one. That is literally the first thing I do with every single client, every single time, is we make sure they've got enough guaranteed income. Most people don't realize that, yes, you can create your own, I call it a personally directed pension, but it's the same thing. Yeah, people don't realize all a pension is you have contributed, and so has your employer contributed to a chunk of money. And then when you retire, essentially it's annuitized, which they say, if you do 100% just for you, it would be this, 100% for you and your wife, it's going to be this, or 75 or 50%. There's going to be a whole bunch of options. We can do the exact same thing. So you've saved up all this money in a 401k and you don't have a pension. Okay, well, let's make you one. Let's take the money out of that 401k and let's create a guaranteed lifetime income annuity with a top-rated company, and let's make you a pension because, yes, again, income is what brings happiness in retirement. And that's exactly what we're doing. And that's the very first step that I work with every single client on, is making sure they've got enough guaranteed income through one of these personal pension plans, which we call guaranteed lifetime annuities.
75%, by the way, agreed with the statement. The disappearance of the traditional pension has made it harder to achieve the American dream. That's 3 out of 4. Tim, that's an alarmingly high number, isn't it?
It is. And they're right. I mean, if you're just trying to hope that you can live on a chunk of money, no matter how big it is, it could be 100,000, it could be 10 million. It really doesn't matter. If you think you're going to live on that for the rest of your life, imagine the stress.
Yeah.
Because what happens if the market crashes? What happens if something happens internationally? What happens if there's another pandemic? What happens if? We could sit here and talk for 20 minutes about ifs that could happen. Medical things, long-term care. I mean, there's a ton of things that could happen in your life. If you're just pulling money out and praying to God you don't outlive it, you better make a plan for what are you going to do if you do outlive it.
Mm-hmm. No
Period.
Doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and if you don't have a plan, that's when you need to have one of these plans, because that's going to be what helps you live the American dream, is knowing you've got enough income no matter what. Super important.
Well, folks, if you're approaching retirement and obviously you're looking for more details about making that switch from accumulation to distribution, or maybe you're looking to provide those streams of income in your financial future, much like we just discussed here moments ago, let Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement help. Pick up the phone, give him a call today, schedule that 15-minute complimentary discovery call by dialing 800-913-SAFE. Again, that number is 800-913-7233, or online. It's safemoneyretirement.com. Again, it's safemoneyretirement.com. Well, Tim, I know we always talk about time flies when you're having fun. I know we had a great show here today, and before we do run out of time, I'd love to leave the floor all yours for the final word.
Yeah, we did. We covered a bunch of really good stuff today, but the one thing I really want people to take out of all of everything that we discussed today is all of those rising costs that we discussed at the very beginning of the show today. All of those things are going to keep rising. I don't see anyone that thinks, well, there's going to be negative inflation and costs are going to go down. I don't remember that ever happening. Does anybody? So we all expect costs are going to keep going up for healthcare, for inflation, for taxes. I mean, you know, right this moment, we're doing okay with taxes because of who's in the White House. We don't know who's going to be in the White House 3 years from now. We don't know who's going to be in the White House 7 years from now. We don't know what the tax rates are going to do. And with all of the debt, there's a really high probability that taxes are going to go up in the future. You need to make a plan for that. You need to make a plan for what your lifestyle is really going to be in retirement, and make sure you've got enough income to do what you want to do in retirement. The long story short is make a plan. I know I beat that horse into the ground every single week. Make a plan with a certified financial fiduciary that's looking out for your best interest, and that way you can have your own safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.